Okay, so back to educational rap. What is remix? So I talked about rap and remix. So I talk about rap as the production of audio and video kind of artifacts. And what is remix? Well, remix is when you take, traditionally take an audio track from a music audio from a, what do you call those things? CDs, yes, sorry, I haven't seen one of those for a while. From a CD or something like that, and then you take out, say, for example, you take off the voice and you replace it with your own voice, or you overlay another piece of music on top of it, and you create a kind of remix of the audio. And that's also a good metaphor, because what we often want people to do in education is we want them to read something, to see something, to hear something, and to put it together in a different way. We don't want them to give it back to us exactly as it was. We give essays, as an example of remix. We give essays, and we expect people to write it in their own words, right? So they're remixing it. They're taking something. They didn't create it out of nothing. They're remixing it. We may want them to use information from 2 or 3 or 4 sources, so that they're not copying everything verbatim from a single source. And again, they're remixing it. So there's nothing new about remix, and it's not just about music. And it has the potential to be a metaphor for much of what we do in education. And this is a poster done by a preschool child, which is effectively remixing pictures from magazines and things. And I see somebody on Oprah Winfrey the other night doing this as well. I don't know if you've seen that. So remix. Okay, now imagine that I was a learner in your class, and you said, do something for me on education and why it's important to collaborate in Africa. Okay, so I handed you in this text. No punctuation, no sentences, just lines of text. You'd say, well, what on earth are you giving me? You can't expect me to give you any marks or grade or anything for that. Okay, so what if I took it and I put it in these little boxes, and I put one of these statements on every page? Okay, now I'm starting to see some sense of it, but I mean, what the hell is this black background here? It doesn't do anything for me. Okay, so what if I went on Flickr and I downloaded a whole lot of pictures and I put it all together, and I said, here's my pictures that go with the text. You say, well, how am I supposed to make any sense of that? But what if I take the text and put it in these boxes, and then I put the boxes on top of the pictures? So let's see what kind of an assignment you might produce out of that. Okay, so I'm using a wiki here to do this. That's just a plain old simple wiki. You type into it in text, just like typing in Notepad if you're a Windows user. And it formats the output in some way. So here's my lines of text. Okay, I've called my presentation Education 3.0, Why Should Africa Care? So I've taken the text and I've put it in a box, and you can see that the text is there, but the impact of it is not great. Okay, so what if I then said, now let me take the pictures, go on Flickr, find a whole lot of pictures, put them in the wiki and see what happens. And there's a whole lot of pictures, but you know, they don't make any sense, do they? So remix is when you take all those things now and you combine them together, and now you can start to see, hey, there's some interesting things happening here, and maybe this starts to make some sense, and maybe there's some impact in here, and maybe the person who put all this together had to actually understand the concepts, had to learn the concepts, because they didn't know the concepts when they started, before they started putting this together. So imagine if you're a teacher in a school and one of your learners does an assignment like this. What would you give them as a result? I think my key is broken here. So that's the gist of it. So remix is really taking information from different sources, from different places, knowledge, ideas, words, text, sound, video, mixing it together to create something new that has a learning benefit. And so that's why I think we can think of rap and remix as a metaphor for education, using creative energies, using technologies that learners are familiar with, that they have access to, trying to get them to do interesting new things that involve interacting with technology and interacting with knowledge. And so in order to create a remix scenario, what do you need? You need some technologies, like a cell phone, like an MP3 player, like a basic computer, a little bit of software. All of the software is available for free, as I said, to do any of this stuff. And you need some activities. You need to be a little bit creative about the kinds of activities that you can get learners to engage in. And then you need some source of materials. And so that's what we've tried to do with this social content and networking for schools, is we have various content sourced from the internet, but we hold copies of it locally, like Wikipedia, for example. So there's a local copy of it that's running on this wireless network. So the students don't have to go out onto the internet in order to access it. So they can take the content and they can remix it locally. If you're a teacher and you do are blessed with an internet connection, you can always download videos from YouTube, for example, and give them a little library of videos that they can play with. So there are lots of ways in which you can use this technology to create the remix opportunities for students. Now I'm running Linux on my desktop here. Everything that I've done here is all done with free software. And there's absolutely nothing that wasn't done with free software or images that have a Creative Commons license that allowed me to share them and make use of them. So whatever I've been able to do here, you can also do in schools, and learners can also do in schools. And if they happen to be on the TuxLab network and connected to this site, you have an absolutely fantastic piece of software there that can enable you to do a tremendous amount more than just putting up text on the screen. And I'm just going to finish up by going over to see whether anybody has anything that they've sent through from Mixit. We are experimenting at the moment with some new technologies that we haven't fully implemented yet. So one of them is this interface to instant messaging services like Mixit and Google Talk and all that kind of stuff that will enable you to take incoming messages into the system and use them for something. We haven't quite worked out exactly all of the ways in which it could be used yet. But I think that there's a lot of potential that we will uncover as we explore this over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, so there's Wes is one of our developers. He's testing from Mixit. Wes testing from Mixit. That's my nephew who sent me a smiley, but of course it doesn't parse the smileys. And we also have just started a project to enable you to podcast directly to this site from Skype. So if you have Skype, and if you happen to have, for example, Skype on a mobile phone with Wi-Fi, you can actually connect to Skype and you can record an interview and podcast it live using Skype to this social content site. That is not implemented yet, but it will be implemented within the next 2 to 3 weeks. The guys are working on finishing it off now. So there's really a lot of possibilities for using this technology to do innovative and interesting things. And it's distributed technologies, and you don't need to know where it sits in the world. You just need to know you go to that interface, and you do that, and there is your stuff, right? And the fact that it happens to be running across servers that are some in South Africa, some in the US, and some somewhere else, should be largely irrelevant. Thank you very much. That's it.